Hello, art teacher here with you again, and we're doing part 3 of crosshatching. And that's going to be crosshatching a color wheel like what you see here. Now, in order to do that though, I want to do a little bit of review on what I mean by crosshatching. So, review crosshatching. Crosshatching is an art technique where you're using a group, in our case, a group of 4 to 10 lines, each of which is about as long as your thumbnail. So, I'll make them longer on the board just to demonstrate. Set of lines like that. Then, when you cross them, you should cross them on the corner so that you avoid making a pattern. Then keep adding more and more to it and making that grow. Remember, the lines have to be parallel also. So what I asked you to do is a little assignment like this, where you have a quarter sheet of paper. If you don't remember that, go back and look at part 2 of the crosshatching series. It's important. And what I'm doing here is adding these little crosshatching lines, and you'll notice I'm doing it quickly, but they still look good. That's the point. You want to get to where you can do them pretty quickly and they still look good. I'm sort of turning my paper around as I go too. That's a little hint that'll help you. So I'll move right up there and you should be able to see that's an area of crosshatching. And then you'd fill the whole thing, and then that would be enough practice maybe to get you started. If you feel like you need more practice, do the whole sheet. By the time you got done with the whole sheet, you'd be able to probably do it maybe not quite as quick as I do, because I'm pretty quick with it. I've done different crosshatching projects, so I've had a bit of practice. I'm somewhat fast with it, and they still look good. So you might not be quite as fast as that, but you'll be pretty quick with it. The goal is do it quickly and still make it look good, keeping your lines parallel. Okay? You want to keep those lines parallel, about the correct length, and try to avoid patterns. That's my review of crosshatching. Now make sure you did that before we move on to this next thing, which is making a color wheel. And here I have my color wheel, and the idea on the color wheel was just to make a regular color wheel and get initiated into the idea of using color pencils with crosshatching. And then the bottom part here, I'm mixing colors. In this case, orange and red, see? Analogous, our next door neighbor colors. Here, blue and purple. Again, next door neighbor colors. That next door neighbor color idea is important. So, first step in making a color wheel, get a piece of this kind of paper, just regular old copy paper, it doesn't have to be awesome. Then, boom, just any, I used a little lid from a jelly bean jar, but whatever you happen to have. And putting it down toward the middle there, and I line it up pretty nicely. You can measure it, but you don't have to. Make my circle. See? Made my circle like that. Okay. That shouldn't be hard to do. Then, just with eyeball judgment, try to find the halfway point across, and with a ruler, make a line straight across like that. Let me go ahead and do that. Just using eyeball judgment. We're not necessarily going for absolute precision on that. Cut it in half. Then, using eyeball judgment, you're going to divide that up into a total of 6 little pieces of the pie. Now that reminds me, there's a that's not too good, but it goes to show it doesn't have to be perfect. That one's probably too small, but it still works. Anyway, I'll move on to, I'll use this one when I demonstrate more. You'd be a little more careful than I was. Reminds me of Trivial Pursuit, that little board game. Anyway, after you have your color wheel done, you need to make a couple little boxes at the bottom for mixing colors. So I can just line my ruler up so it's flush against the edge here. Make a, I don't have to measure it again perfectly, but lightly make a line there. Just using eyeball judgment. Again, these don't have to be absolutely perfect. These are practice ones, but it's nice to take a little pride in your craftsmanship. It's not, again, not perfect. I have 2 boxes here and the circle divided up into 6. Now, I'm going to take that, and the next step is, of course, getting into your color pencil cross-hatching like that. Now, I happen to have a real nice set of color pencils here. These are Prismacolors. You know, that's a pretty good set. I purchased that. And if I want to start with the yellow at the top, I might get 2 different types of yellow. They're both yellow, but it adds interest to have a couple different types of yellow. And just begin. There we go. Got it started right away. Just begin with my set of lines. And that's what you do. Just keep rolling with that. And you can switch out as you like. Now I'm doing several sets of lines with this light yellow. Now I'm taking this mustard yellow. I guess that would be like an ochre. Yellow ochre type of color, and I'll do several lines with that, several sets of lines. Then I'm switching back now. So what I'm doing is, instead of just making it all one shade of yellow or one tint of yellow, one type of yellow, I have a couple different yellows here. And I'm just going to continue with that. And I could fill this in. It probably wouldn't take me that long. It might take you a little longer if you're not really used to doing a lot of cross-hatching. But once you get going with it, making those small sets of parallel lines and crossing it on the corner, once you get used to doing those 2 things, you can get to where you're pretty fast, pretty accurate, and put those lines right where you want them. Without a tremendous amount of thought. You can turn this around as you go. Oh, I'm going to put some here, turn it a little to put it on the corner. Keep doing that, turn it a little to put it on the corner, and then just continue with that. Oh, switching out pencils. Just letting you know what I'm thinking as I go. And I'll go ahead and fill this one up completely. Just so you can see, it's not going to take forever to do it, but one of the main things that's good to keep in mind when doing this color wheel is you're trying to achieve a rich, interesting area that has that little shimmering effect, that little shimmering color effect, by using, in this case, only 2, but you can use more shades of yellow, or 2 types of yellow, or tints of yellow. There we go. That's reasonably good. And that's the yellow section. Now, I can put that away. And my little set here happens to have a nice variety of purple and violets. So I'll just pull out 3 of these. Hey, I'll go with just 3 of these. And instead of using 2, I'm going to use 3. That's almost pinkish, but not really. More, it's got a little bit of blue in it. You know, violet is blue and red mixed together. So just switching out my pencil so you can see how I'm doing it. So I'm using, let's get that light colored one. I'm using a variety of different types of violet here. Violet and purples. Oh, that one goes. Anyway, let me bring that on up here. You can get a reasonably close look. Move it back as I go. And I would fill that in if I weren't, if I were doing this project completely. Of course, I'd fill that in and do the other 4 colors as well, using the same process, finding 2 or more different shades of each of those colors. Now, on the bottom, I would like you to choose 2 next door neighbor colors. For instance, how about blue and green? I'll do blue and green. You can choose any 2 as long as they're next to each other on the color wheel. That's called analogous colors. I did a whole video just on the analogous colors. You can go back and look at that. Anyway, I'm going to choose blue and green. They are next to each other. And I'm going to use those to fill this box right here. So let me pick out my greens. Here's a couple. Here's 3 greens. And I'll get 2 blues here. So I have 5 different pencils representing 2 different colors on the color wheel. So it's going to add a lot of variety and interest to that area. So let's just get started on that. There we go. I'll cross those with crossing on the corner. Always crossing it on the corner of another set of lines so as to avoid patterns. And if you went ahead and did this project, that just becomes extremely natural for you, and you don't even really have to think about it. So I'm sort of starting in the middle and just branching it out over the whole area. Always crossing on the corner as I go. And I'll make a few sets of lines with the color. Then I'll switch out to another color. Just keep rolling with that. Maybe turn the paper a little now and then in order to get it to cross on the corner. How about a light green now? Really mixing it up good so it's a real mix of these 5 different pencils. Let's just keep rolling with it. And I'm intent on just getting this one done here on video so that you can see the complete process, because this is probably one of the most important parts, because the mixing of analogous colors and a wide variety of pencils, each one representing a different shade or tint of those colors. I'll get into shades or tints. I need to do a whole video on that. Shades, tints, color intensity. There are a lot of considerations with color, all of which will give me a lot of ammunition for future videos. I'm going to have a lot to talk about with color as the months and years go by and I continue with these videos. Shades, tints, color intensity. A shade is where you darken a color. A tint is when you lighten it. So, let me just hit a couple more of these. So, there we go. Now I've done, and I could do more with that, but what I've done here is, and it should have a little bit of that shimmering effect. What I've done here is mix 2 analogous colors with a variety, with 5 different pencils. Now, the next step, of course, obviously would be to choose 2 other colors here on the color wheel, and maybe I would choose red and orange. Then I would go back to my color pencil set, pick out a couple reds, and here's an orange. My set doesn't have a huge amount of reds. Oh, there's a dark red. I could use that. So I'm picking out, in this case I would have 4 different ones, follow the same procedure and do maybe, well, that would be a cool color and that would be a warm color if I did yellow and red. And that's a whole other video I can do. But our main color concept on this project, again, is analogous colors. That means colors that are next to each other on the color wheel, meaning next door neighbor colors, red and orange mixed here, blue and purple mixed here, okay? You don't have to do the exact colors I'm mixing, but you should have a variety, not just one of each color, but it's nice to have a good set or a large set so that you can have a variety going on with that, a variety of different types of each color or related color. Anyway, finish that color wheel. Now let me do a quick review. I reviewed cross-hatching. That was this one. Go back to video number 2 in this series, and that'll really explain that. Then, making a color wheel. What I did is simply use my lid to make a circle, divided that up with a ruler into 6 different shapes. Then at the bottom I made 2 boxes. You can use a ruler for that, but you don't have to. And then I colored those in using cross-hatching on the top, using 2 or more different types of each color. A couple different yellows, a couple different oranges, etc. At the bottom, I chose actually not just 2 different types of one color, but I chose 2 different colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. For instance, I did blue and green. Then I mixed those together using cross-hatching, and in my case I did 5 different types of blue and green to put it together. You don't need to do 5, you could do 4, you could even do 3. But it's nice to try to get a variety because it adds interest, okay? So don't just stick to 1 or 2 unless you have a small set of colored pencils. So it's good to get a larger set. Again, materials you're going to need for this one, simply regular paper, something round. It's nice to have a ruler, but not required. A decent set of colored pencils. Try to get a larger set. You can get the Prang, Crayola, or if you want to spend a few extra dollars, get the Prismacolors. Those are really good. Okay, if I'm unclear about anything or you need help with anything with it, be sure to leave a comment below. Do your subscriptions, your likes, your favorites, whatever, all that YouTube stuff we do. But I really do want to clarify anything if I was unclear about it. Okay, you take care, and I hope you really enjoy that and get something out of it. Once you get this cross-hatching skill, you've got it for the rest of your life. And once you add some color sensibilities to it, like the analogous color idea, you really could have something special there. Thank you, take care.